Invincible Season 3 just changed everything. Mark Grayson is being pushed beyond his limits. Oliver's future is uncertain, and Omni-Man's fate leaves us questioning everything we thought we knew. Today, we'll be breaking down the biggest lessons Invincible Season 3 teaches us about power, choice, and the cost of survival. If you love deep character analysis and epic storytelling, stick around. To kill or not to kill? Hey, you could be the good guys.
Aw. Man, I always do this. I kill them too fast and then it's over. No torture, no screaming, no fun.
Or the guys who save the world.
It's my job to defend the planet from threats. Don't make me put you in that category, Mark.
Throughout Invincible Season 3, we are constantly confronted with the moral dilemma of pushing the limits of power because you must versus shattering the limits of your power because you can. Mark continuously grapples with the morality of snuffing out the lives of others and determining if there is a line, a moral threshold that he can justify crossing in order to spare the foregoing consequences, a stance he had completely forsaken without question in seasons prior, for fear of mirroring his father's strapling image. However, it would be negligent to overlook the presence of that bloodlusting purple smurf, or Mark's brother Oliver, who undoubtedly indirectly encourages him entertaining the idea when conditions become stringent, as Mark's stance before was in no uncertain terms,
You don't kill!
Mark is found appealing to the societal golden standard of virtue. Rather than bending the knee to his Viltrumite half and shunting his humanity, compassionate side to the shadows. Lil O Man from O Block had some different opinions about that.
Life is precious. We don't just take it.
It's not precious. People kill each other all the time. And most people aren't even special like us.
Straight demon. Here's the thing. We have to look at this objectively. Throw away the rose-tinted glasses. Put down the pie. Invincible is blinded by this idea of pure blinding justice, which even in our world doesn't exist. The idea of right and wrong, good and evil, and black and white, it ignores the gray warbling in between. Would you call Titan evil for acting as a criminal crime boss, however with genuine intentions to improve the lives of the community? Compared to the city under Machine Head's rule, he's a saint. Can you rationalize cleaving the lives of a few, delving into the abyssal planes and straying from these angelic scopes of virtue to save the lives of thousands by sacrificing the lives of a few? Is that justice? If so, then whose justice is it? These are the questions that Invincible Season 3 calls us, the viewer, to ponder alongside Mark, who has by association been made to concede himself to his Viltrumite half through Oliver, whose aperture gleams with fragments of his father, Omni-Man. Oliver shows us that if you unalive people and then apologize,
I didn't mean it. It was an accident.
then everything's okay. PSA, that was a joke. Do not unalive anyone. Also, we see this dilemma permeate within Cecil Stedman's backstory, where his skin gets peeled back like a russet potato, waffle cut, hold the BBQ. We see Cecil squabble up with Force Fist and Knuckle Duster, only to end up like a ragmuffin, but ultimately while sparing but a few lives in the process. It was undeniable that the actions of these two resulted in the deaths of many, and when Cecil encountered their rehabilitated versions under Ratcliffe's dominion, sparing their lives within a mission, he could not sow the divide of good and evil and peel back the black and white curtain of vice and virtue. Throughout his own punishment for his actions, he was left with the words, "You can be the good guys, or the guys who save the world, but you can't be both." And so morals are in fluctuant again, justifying the use of Sinclair's flesh puppets to defend the Earth from yet another planetary level threat, a contingency plan for if Mark ever strayed the course. And for seismic earthworms, let's turn our attention to Mark's broken image and the collateral damage that's left in the wake of his onslaught. Invincible Season 3 highlights the dire consequences for adhering and bending the knee to a blind sense of justice, as we see that refusing to stray from the path of virtue may in some instances leave one in dire straits, meaning the death of thousands, and once more spinning the wheel of fortune to graft fiends, demons, and devils who plume through the ashes flickering from the unshaven flame of purity and self-righteousness. As Thanos said,
"The hardest choices require the strongest wills."
And in the world of Invincible, and even in our world, adhering to society's principles of justice and tracking the pillars of virtue will not always be the right thing to do given the circumstance. The collateral damage from Invincible not being able to stray from the course and cross that black line gives birth and stirs the embers of wrath within putrid villains such as Angstrom Levy, whom he had thought he killed before, but who potato chipped into one of his portals, where he was then met by his creepy mob of scary looking doctors. Angstrom assembled multiple variants of Invincible from different timelines or universes with the sole mission in mind to ruin the hero Invincible's image across the world. The destruction was unfathomable, almost as if each sector of the planet within a single day was undergoing their own planetary destruction event, or their own 9/11. Even Rexplode found himself held victim by one of the variants and having to make the ultimate sacrifice by combusting his skeleton. The consequence of Invincible not finishing the job when it came to Angstrom was the deaths of thousands upon thousands, and what's even more, a shattered image of who the hero Invincible is, what he stands for, and a journey to rebuild his reputation and the journey lying ahead. The ties to virtue within Mark are deeply woven within this net of self-righteousness, the ideals he was reared up believing, and this obsessive clinging to do the right thing, even if it leaves the doors open for more lives to be taken. While Mark clings to virtue throughout Season 3, he cannot deny the fact, within his fights with the variants, he was not strong enough to protect Eve from their onslaught and hold his own ground. Angstrom and the variants are proof that Mark's mercy can be just as destructive as his fist. By sparing Angstrom, he unleashed a vengeful enemy and an army of his worst selves, leading to thousands of deaths. Now Mark must face the truth. Hesitation can be just as deadly as action. Okay, so we have to talk about the story of the one and only most electrifying man in the world, Powerplex. We're introduced to Powerplex, a man scorned by a sound barrier-breaking fight between Invincible and his father Omni-Man, which resulted in the death of his young niece and her mother, in the midst of him dropping by Starbucks to get some double pump lattes. While Invincible is made to acknowledge the collateral, the side characters whose lives are upended due to his gallant conflicts, in the name of saving the world, we are forced to weigh the more trifling trifecta of desire versus virtue versus vice. Powerplex, even after the death of his niece, maintains the stability of a wife and a child that would do anything to support him, until they can't. But whose fault is that? Aside from the petty acknowledgement given by Invincible, Powerplex never achieves the justice he thirsts for, but instead pays the ultimate price by relinquishing his final pillars of stability, as he's devoured by a blinding hatred. While Mark scuffles with his suffocating sense of justice and refuses to blur the lines one diopter, Powerplex is consumed by vengeance, allowing his grief to hollow him from within. In the end, both are trapped, Mark and his rigid ideals, and Powerplex and his unrelenting wrath, each unwilling to compromise, each suffering for it. And in a world where justice and revenge often blur into the same path, Invincible forces us to ask, is there truly a difference, or is survival only the real virtue? And thus the grayscale of justice is made to teeter before us again. Let's turn our attention to Omni-Man's redemption. Though Omni-Man has had his own setbacks in life.
What's 17 more years? I can always start again. Make another kid.
It doesn't mean he can't take a step in the right direction. In Invincible Season 3, we veer the course of what appears to be the beginning of Nolan's redemption arc. It's true that Omni-Man could have trudged forth with his Viltrum way of honor and gone out with what he believed was the honorable way, having in multiple instances accepted his fate as a traitor to both his family and homeland. What's more, this execution was unmistakably his sort of penance for his treachery, which gave all the more fire to his refusal of Alan's request to escape. However, the cracks of humanity instilled in him from his time on Earth with his wife and Mark began to bleed through. Well, that and Alan's endless chattering. And more than himself and his pride as a Viltrumite, he challenged the lives of others, even if it meant him surviving against his own wishes. Omni-Man now has a new friend. They even share secrets. Learning of Viltrum's most closely kept secret, that there are fewer than 50 Viltrumites left roving the galaxy. Nolan has a new purpose, a new drive, and a new journey unfurling ahead, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to redeem the irredeemable, and bringing peace to the planets colonized under Viltrum rule. As we all know, however, redemption is never as simple as a change of heart. It is a battle between virtue and vice, between the ghost of past sins and the fragile hope of atonement. Nolan may have chosen survival over pride, but the weight of his past still looms over him like an unshakable shadow. The question now is not whether he wants to redeem himself, but whether he can, or if the sins of a Viltrumite are simply too great to be undone. Let's talk about Mark's conquest of strength this season, shall we? Gotta be honest, Mark was getting the absolute shit beat out of him. By a dragon, by himself. Doc Seismic was in them cheeks too. But the real problem was Great Value Thanos, or as you know him, conquest. I've never seen a guy smile at another man like he's eating a 6-piece combo meal with a side of fries. In season 3 of Invincible, the audience finds that Mark must usurp his own physical limiters and weakness, as well as place trust and faith in his allies.
We're not done yet.
When it's deserved, to come to his aid rather than pushing them away. We already know that Viltrumites have a unique perspective with all their god-bound capabilities, and with Mark as the protector, how else could he help but to see others as liabilities in a down and dirty 1v1, if we can call this a 1v1. Sometimes Mark's predisposition to underestimate both ally and foe, unbeknownst to him, can become his greatest weakness, as we see his angst to protect backfire when Adam Eve arcs into action in the last fleeting moments of battle between him and Conquest. There's no buts about it. She saved his life. And other than chiseling out his combat relationships, Invincible needs to hit that weight room to get that punch and power up. If nothing else, one thing's for certain: whenever the conditions reach the apices of his ladder of stout, dignified purity, and the lives of his loved ones are left hanging by a thread, or stretching by a thread, he will without thought or hesitation cast the virtue to the wind, and rather than cling to the title of being the good guy, he will sink into the trenches and become the guy who saves the world. Looks like Conquest is going to need a new pair of teeth and some new friends.
No one talks to me. No one wants to be my friend. They think I am unstable.
If you took something from this video, I want you to take a moment to crack that subscribe button below and like the video. Like the video, it pushes these videos out so that others can take key tokens that you've gained, so do your fellow comrades a favor. I hope you've enjoyed my analysis of Invincible Season 3 and will join me on my channel for future analysis, as well as to uncover writing tips you need to make your own story and fictional world stand out from the rest. I will leave a link to my socials in the description below. If you want more info on how to improve your own story, feel free to check out some of my other videos by clicking right here. Writers, world builders, and storytellers aiming to perfect writing techniques and enhance their storytelling and world building are all welcome. And with that, remember, if ever you're lost in the forestry of words, strip your mind from fantasy and look to the window of the world, and there, your mind will run free. There, your mind will become.